I've been married to Jenna for 5 years now, and I thought we had a solid relationship. We both had good jobs, me as a project manager at a tech firm and Jenna as an elementary school teacher. We bought a cozy little house in a decent neighborhood and even started talking about kids. But as it turns out, everything was a facade. In retrospect, the signs were there. I remember the first time I felt off about our marriage. It was a Wednesday evening, and I came home a little later than usual. Jenna had been acting strange, distracted, on edge. When I asked her about her day, she brushed me off, saying she had a long day at school and just wanted to relax. I let it slide, thinking maybe she was just tired. But then the changes escalated. She started working late more often. At first, I thought it was dedication to her students, but then I noticed she was getting text messages more frequently, always smiling when her phone buzzed. I thought it was probably just work-related conversations, but my gut said otherwise. One evening, I noticed her phone left unattended on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, contemplating whether I should check it. I had never done that before, but I felt a rush of anxiety. I knew something was up. I opened her texts and found messages from someone named Mark, who was texting her things like, "Can't wait to see you again." My heart dropped. I confronted her that night when she got home. I couldn't hold back the hurt and anger. I asked her about Mark, hoping for some logical explanation. Jenna exploded, her face flushed with anger. "He's just a friend from work. Why are you snooping through my phone? This isn't fair." I could feel my heart racing, and that familiar ache in my chest began to swell. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand the truth, but instead I felt the tears welling up. "Just a friend?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It doesn't sound like just a friend to me." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're being ridiculous. Maybe I'm just trying to have a life outside of you, you know. Not everything revolves around you." Her defensiveness was infuriating. I wanted to shake her awake, make her see how deeply she was hurting me. Things escalated quickly after that. I felt betrayed, and the emotional fallout hit like a freight train. I spent nights tossing and turning, replaying every moment, every suspicion. I had trusted her completely, and now that trust was shattered. I couldn't eat, I couldn't focus at work. I was like a ghost walking through life. In the following weeks, I gathered evidence. I didn't feel right about just confronting her with accusations. I started keeping track of her movements, and it wasn't long before I had proof that she was indeed seeing Mark, a stockbroker she met at a networking event. It made me sick to my stomach. The thought of her with him, laughing and enjoying life like we used to, filled me with rage. In my darkest moments, I wanted revenge. I thought about how I could turn the tables on her. It was a chaotic mix of anger and despair. I began to plot how I could not only ensure she would never benefit from the infidelity, but also find a way to regain control of my life. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to play this smart. I started looking into investing. I had always been cautious with money, preferring to save rather than risk, but now I needed a way to ensure Jenna wouldn't benefit from any financial gains if I ever walked away from this mess. I spent nights studying the stock market, learning the ins and outs, and planning how to invest. I wanted to take back my power in a way that she would never see coming. It was time for her to learn that betrayal comes with consequences. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Jenna and me became unbearable. I was living in a house that felt more like a prison than a home. Every time I looked at her, all I could see was the betrayal etched on her face. I hadn't told her that I knew about Mark, because I wanted to play my cards close to my chest. The last thing I wanted was for her to sense that I was onto her. Instead, I acted like everything was normal, going about my daily routine, suppressing the storm brewing inside me. I started taking long walks in the evenings, ostensibly to clear my mind. In reality, I was hunting for information. I'd overhear bits of conversations outside our favorite cafe, and I'd even planted myself near her school to watch her interactions with colleagues. That's when I caught her. One late afternoon, I saw Jenna outside the school, laughing and hugging Mark. It was the kind of embrace that sent a jolt of pain ripping through my chest. They were clearly more than just friends. Each glimpse of their connection made my blood boil. I couldn't allow her to continue living this double life without consequences. I wanted to confront her, to reveal that I was aware of her affair, but I needed to be strategic. I was done being the victim. I was ready to turn the tables. I dove headfirst into learning about investments. I had always been a careful spender, but this was different. I opened an online trading account and meticulously researched stocks that aligned with market trends. I was focused on high-potential companies, those set to explode in value. It was exhilarating, learning about the intricacies of trading, and I quickly became obsessed. No one was going to take advantage of me, especially not Jenna. With every successful trade, I felt a surge of empowerment. I was building a financial portfolio that could secure my future, and part of me relished the thought of Jenna realizing she wouldn't get to benefit from it. I was investing in companies I believed in, while also secretly keeping a close eye on her and Mark's relationship. I discovered they were meeting up more frequently, and I even managed to get a hold of a few intimate messages between them. "Can't wait to see you tonight. The hotel is booked. Just us, babe." One of the messages read. I was filled with a mix of anger and determination. How dare she? I wanted to take this betrayal and use it as fuel for my plans. As I got deeper into the world of investments, I realized I had to create a diversion. I needed Jenna to believe I was still oblivious to her affair while I continued to build my financial leverage. I decided to play the role of the understanding husband, allowing her to think she was getting away with her deception. I even suggested we take a weekend trip together to reconnect, something I hadn't done in months. "Let's go to that cabin in the mountains," I proposed one evening, attempting to sound carefree. She looked at me, surprised but pleased. "That sounds great. I've been so overwhelmed with work lately. A getaway would be perfect." Little did she know, my motivation was mostly to observe her in a relaxed setting, to see how she interacted with me compared to how she acted with Mark. I also wanted to see if I could catch her off guard and potentially reveal her betrayal. There was a thrilling undercurrent to this plan. I was finally taking control. As the weekend approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. The thought of her being cornered into confessing her infidelity was both daunting and invigorating. I kept telling myself that I wasn't doing this out of vindictiveness. Rather, I was reclaiming my life. On the day we were set to leave, Jenna was in high spirits. She packed with enthusiasm, humming to herself as she loaded the car. I watched her, suppressing the rage that bubbled beneath my surface. I wanted to scream and make her understand how much she had shattered my world, but I had to play the long game. As we drove through winding mountain roads, I couldn't help but wonder if I was making the right choices. Would my plan work? Would she crack under pressure? The thought of her finally being confronted with the truth made me feel alive, igniting a fire in my heart that I hadn't felt in weeks. Once we arrived at the cabin, the air was crisp and refreshing. The beauty of nature surrounded us, but all I could focus on was how I would confront her. I planned to set some traps, subtle enough to catch her off guard but not so obvious that she'd suspect I was onto her. The first night at the cabin, I prepared a nice dinner. As we sat across from each other, the flickering candlelight cast shadows in the corners, and Jenna seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. She talked about how much she loved the mountains, and I played along, offering a half-hearted smile. After dinner, we sat by the fireplace, and I thought this would be the perfect moment to initiate a conversation about our relationship. I leaned back, taking a deep breath while looking into the flames, feeling the weight of my plan hanging in the air. "Jenna, do you think we're doing okay?" I asked, forcing a casual tone. She looked at me, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Of course, why wouldn't we be? I could see a hint of defensiveness creeping in, and it fueled my resolve. I wasn't going to let her deflect me so easily. "I don't know, it just feels like we've been distant lately. I want to make sure we're on the same page." Her expression shifted slightly, but she quickly masked it with a smile. "That's just life, you know. Work has been hectic, but we'll be fine, babe." "Yeah, we'll see about that," I muttered under my breath, contemplating how to implement the next phase of my plan. The weekend was just beginning. I was determined to expose the truth, and by the end of it, Jenna would realize she had underestimated me. The game was on, and I was ready for whatever twists lay ahead. After that first night at the cabin, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety coursing through me. I had set the stage for a confrontation, but now I needed to find the right moment to pull the trigger. Jenna had a way of deflecting my concerns and making me feel like I was overreacting. I needed to catch her off guard, to make her reveal her true self without the facade she wore on a daily basis. The next morning, I woke up early, the sunlight peeking through the cabin windows. I had a plan. I decided to casually bring up the topic of trust over breakfast, using it as a segue into the deeper issues plaguing our marriage. I cooked a simple meal of eggs and bacon, trying to maintain a neutral demeanor. Jenna joined me at the table, looking refreshed and cheerful. "Morning. This smells amazing," she said, pouring herself a cup of coffee. She took a seat across from me, and I could see the contentment on her face. For a moment I hesitated, wondering if I should just drop the subject and enjoy the moment. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to push forward. "Thanks," I replied, serving her a plate. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about trust lately." Her brow furrowed slightly as she chewed. "Trust, what do you mean?" I leaned back, choosing my words carefully. "I just feel like we've been distant, and I want to make sure we're open with each other. You know, trust is really important in a relationship." Jenna paused, her fork hovering in midair. "I don't think we have a trust issue, do we?" She sounded defensive, and I could sense the walls she was building around herself. "Maybe not, but it's been on my mind," I pressed, watching her reaction closely. "I just want us to be honest with each other. I want to know if there's anything we need to address." She rolled her eyes, frustration creeping into her voice. "I don't know what you're worried about. We're fine. Maybe it's you who's feeling insecure." She offered an insincere laugh, attempting to brush off my concerns, but I wasn't letting that slide. "Is it?" I asked, my tone more assertive, "because I've been sensing something off. You've been distant, and I can't help but feel like there's more going on beneath the surface." Jenna sighed, clearly irritated. "You're overthinking it. I've just been busy. With work, dealing with kids is exhausting, you know that." "Right," I nodded, trying to keep my voice calm. "But are there any other distractions, like someone else?" Her eyes widened slightly, and for a brief moment I saw panic flash across her face, but she quickly recovered, smoothing her features back into indifference. "What are you talking about? I'm just busy. You're making this into something it's not." Her defensiveness only fueled my determination. I had to escalate my approach if I wanted to draw out the truth. The meal went on, filled with awkward silences and strained conversation. I decided to change tactics and use the excuse of taking a hike to get us outside and away from the pressure of the cabin. Once we hit the trail, the fresh mountain air filled my lungs, but the weight on my heart was still heavy. I needed to find a way to create an opening, a chance to strike at the heart of the matter. As we walked, I steered our conversation toward relationships in general, asking her opinion about fidelity and commitment. "So, what do you think makes a relationship work?" I asked, casually. Looking at her as we navigated the rocky path, she shrugged. "Communication, obviously, and trust. You have to be there for each other." "Yeah, but what about temptation?" I pressed, watching her reaction closely. "Do you think people can resist?" "Of course," she replied, a little too quickly. "It's about commitment. If you love someone, you won't stray." I couldn't help but notice how her voice lacked conviction. What if someone feels unappreciated, or if they just want to feel desired again? "Then they should communicate that," she said firmly. "That's the adult thing to do." I looked at her, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Right, but what if they do? What if they choose to go behind someone's back instead?" Jenna shot me a look. "Why are you asking all these hypotheticals? Are you trying to tell me something?" I decided to keep her on the edge, not giving away my knowledge. "No, just curious, just trying to understand how people can justify cheating, I guess." Her eyes narrowed, but I could see she was beginning to sweat. "Well, I don't understand it. If you're unhappy, just leave. Don't drag someone through betrayal." As we continued hiking, I noticed Jenna's energy shifting. The closer we got to the summit, the more anxious she seemed. I wanted to press harder, but I also needed to be strategic. I decided to save my biggest reveal for later, after we returned to the cabin. I wanted her to unwind, to let her guard down before I confronted her with the truth. Once we made it back, I suggested a fire outside under the stars. The warmth of the flames felt comforting, and for a moment I allowed myself to relax. Jenna seemed to enjoy the ambience, sipping her wine and laughing at memories we shared. But as we sat there, I could feel the tension building again. I had the evidence of her betrayal, and it was time to unleash it. I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race with the anticipation of what was to come. "Jenna," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I need to talk to you about something important." She looked at me, her smile fading slightly. "What is it?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the messages I had saved. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, anger and hurt bubbling beneath the surface. "I've seen the messages between you and Mark." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment she was speechless. "What are you talking about?" I continued, determined to hold my ground. "I know about the hotel bookings, the late-night conversations. You've been lying to me, and it's over." The silence that followed was deafening. I could see her mind racing, trying to formulate an excuse. "You don't understand." She finally blurted out, "It's not what you think." "Then explain it to me, Jenna. What is it?" I challenged, feeling a sense of triumph as I pressed for the truth. She stammered, her voice faltering. "It was just one time. I was lonely and I thought we were drifting apart. It didn't mean anything. Just one time." I echoed, disbelief washing over me. "You think that makes it any better? You chose to betray me instead of communicating your feelings." Tears began to form in her eyes, and for a moment I thought she might actually take responsibility for her actions. I was confused, okay? I didn't know how to talk to you about it. You were always so busy with work. Her excuses only fueled my anger more. "So cheating was the solution. You let someone else into our lives and thought I wouldn't find out." "I'm sorry," she cried, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. "Well, you did, and now I have to figure out what to do with this." As I watched her crumble, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I had finally exposed the truth, but it came at a steep emotional cost. The betrayal weighed heavily on my heart, and I knew this was just the beginning of the fallout. I had to decide what came next for me: the man who had been deceived and the man who had started to reclaim his power through strategic investments and a resolve for revenge. I wasn't going to let her benefit from this betrayal. I was ready for the consequences, and I was prepared to take my life back, no matter the outcome. In the aftermath of my confrontation with Jenna, the air felt thick with tension, a palpable weight pressing down on us. The fire crackled in the silence, casting flickering shadows on her drawn face. I could see the realization settling in. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and I was no longer the oblivious husband who would forgive her without question. "Please, can we talk about this?" she pleaded, wiping tears from her cheeks, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake and I regret it. I need you to know that." But how could I? My heart was still racing from the revelation, and I was grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, disappointment. I had once loved this woman fiercely, yet now I felt like a stranger to her, a mere pawn in a game she had played with my trust. "Regret doesn't take away what you did, Jenna," I said, my voice steady but laced with hurt. "You chose to betray me, to seek comfort in someone else instead of coming to me. That's not a mistake, that's a choice." She looked down, clearly caught in a web of guilt and remorse. I know, I messed up, but I thought I could fix things before you ever found out," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to lose you. Yet you were willing to risk everything," I countered. "You had a chance to talk to me, to be honest about how you felt, and instead, you chose to deceive me." The truth stung, and I could see the shame washing over her, but I wasn't about to let her manipulate the narrative. I had spent too long being the understanding partner, too long allowing her to wear the mask of innocence while she played with the trust I had placed in her. "Now what?" I asked, my tone clipped. "What do you expect me to say? That I'm just going to forgive you and pretend this never happened?" She shook her head vigorously, her eyes wide with desperation. "No, I don't want you to pretend. I want to make this right. I love you and I want to fix this. Please, just give me a chance." I paused, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Love. Was that still possible after what she had Done, I had loved her, trusted her, and now she had shattered that trust. How could I ever look at her the same way again? I don't even know if I can look at you without seeing him, I admitted, my voice cracking as I spoke. How do I reconcile what I thought we had with the reality you've created? Jenna's face fell and she took a shaky breath. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go to counseling, I'll be open with you, anything. Just don't walk away. Walking away sounds tempting, I replied. You've betrayed me in the worst way possible, and now I have to decide if I can even look at you without feeling sick. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity, the crackling fire the only sound between us. I felt like I was on a precipice, about to make a decision that would change the course of my life. The anger inside me had sparked something deeper, a determination to reclaim my life, my finances, and my emotional well-being. After a long pause, I exhaled slowly, gathering my thoughts. You need to understand something, Jenna. This isn't just about you and me anymore. I've started investing, planning for a future that doesn't include you benefiting from this betrayal. I'm not sure I can ever trust you again, and if I can't trust you, then what's the point? Her face paled slightly. Investing? What do you mean? I chose my words carefully, wanting to make it clear that I wasn't playing games. I've been educating myself about the stock market, making moves that are going to secure my financial future. I won't allow you to take advantage of my hard work and dedication. Jenna's expression shifted from panic to disbelief. What are you talking about? Why would you do that? Because I refuse to give you any leverage in this situation. You think you can just waltz back into my life and expect everything to be fine. That's not how this works, I said, feeling a surge of confidence. I'm taking control of my financial situation, and you won't benefit from your deceit. She opened her mouth to respond but closed it again, seemingly at a loss for words. It was clear to me that she hadn't anticipated my reaction. You need to understand that I won't be your fallback plan anymore. I deserve better than that. The realization that she had lost her hold on me was beginning to sink in, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. What does that mean for us? She finally asked, her voice quiet. I'll be honest, I said, looking her square in the eyes. I need space to figure this out. I don't know if I can forgive you, and I certainly can't go back to how things were. You've broken my trust, and it's going to take time to rebuild anything, if it's even possible. The tears began to fall freely down her cheeks. I'll do anything, please, she begged, her voice choked with emotion. I'll work hard to prove to you that I'm worth it. I hope you realize that it's going to take more than words, I replied, my heart heavy with the burden of uncertainty. You need to show me, and right now, the first step is giving each other some space. I need to think about what's next for me. Jenna nodded slowly, her expression a mix of desperation and understanding. Okay, space. I get it, she said softly. But please don't give up on us without a fight. I watched her for a moment, the woman I had once adored now reduced to a shadow of her former self. The reality of our situation was surreal, and I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I was reclaiming my power, and while the road ahead was unclear, I was determined to carve out a new path, one where I wouldn't allow anyone to manipulate or deceive me again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows around us, I realized that taking control of my finances was just the beginning. I needed to focus on healing, both emotionally and financially, while also contemplating the possibility of starting anew, whether it meant with Jenna or without her entirely. The ultimate question loomed over me. Was she worth the fight, or was it time to cut my losses and move on for good? That night I went to bed with the weight of that question pressing heavily on my heart. I had made strides toward reclaiming my life, but the emotional scars of betrayal would take time to heal. I would not let her forget what she had done, and I would not allow her to benefit from my hard work. I was done being a victim. It was time to stand tall and face whatever came next. The days turned into a blur of emotional chaos and quiet contemplation. After the confrontation at the cabin, I returned home to an empty house that felt eerily quiet without Jenna's presence. I had opted to take a few days off work to process everything that had happened and to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. Spending time alone allowed me to reflect on the situation without the constant reminder of her deceit staring me in the face. I dove deeper into my investment strategy, channeling my anger and betrayal into building something for myself, something that Jenna wouldn't be able to take from me. I read books, watched tutorials, and even joined online forums where people discussed their investment journeys. It felt empowering to take control of my financial future, and I even started to see some positive returns on my investments. However, the emotional toll of Jenna's betrayal lingered like a shadow, creeping into my thoughts at the most unexpected moments. I found myself replaying our memories together, questioning every little moment we shared. I had always considered us a team, but now I felt more like an outsider in my own life. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through financial news on my laptop when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenna. "Can we talk? I miss you." I stared at the message for a long moment, my heart racing. Although I knew we needed to talk, I felt torn between wanting to reconnect and needing to maintain my boundaries. I typed a response. "I think we should wait a bit longer. I still need time to process everything." Her reply came almost instantly. "Please, I just want to explain everything. I promise I'll be honest." I felt a pang of sadness at her vulnerability. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to ease her pain, but I reminded myself that my priority needed to be my own healing. "I need time, Jenna. Let's not rush into any decisions." I typed back, hitting send before I could second-guess myself. With that exchange, I knew I had put up a boundary. I wasn't ready to forgive her, nor was I ready to dive back into the comfortable life we had shared. My focus needed to be on building a future for myself, with or without her. Over the next few days, I continued my routine of investing and self-education, but there was an underlying sense of restlessness that I couldn't shake. I missed the companionship we had, but I also feared that the trust had been irreparably broken. Then came the weekend, and with it came a decision I had been putting off. I had become increasingly aware of my financial position and had made some decent gains in the stock market. I was ready to solidify my future, without Jenna in the picture if it came to that. I started researching real estate investments, brainstorming ways to build passive income streams that would secure my financial independence. While reviewing listings online, I stumbled upon a property that piqued my interest. It was a modest two-bedroom house in a good neighborhood, perfect for a future rental or a place to call my own. My heart raced at the thought of owning it, but I knew I had to act quickly. The market was competitive, and I needed to secure financing. The next day, I reached out to a real estate agent, asking for more information. As we discussed potential showings, I felt a rush of excitement. This could be the beginning of my new life, a fresh start away from the shadows of betrayal. But as I was calculating my finances and preparing to move forward, the emotional burden of Jenna's betrayal resurfaced. It was impossible to ignore the connection we had built over the years. I couldn't deny that a part of me still loved her despite the hurt she had caused. Later that night, I received another text from her. "I don't want to keep living in limbo. Can we please meet? I need to explain about Mark and what happened." I hesitated, contemplating whether I was ready to confront her again. I knew I had to face this, but I also feared that seeing her again would weaken my resolve. After a moment of deliberation, I decided to meet her, telling myself that I could maintain the upper hand if I stayed true to my intentions. We agreed to meet at a cafe in town, a neutral ground that wouldn't overwhelm either of us. As I walked through the door, I spotted Jenna sitting at a table near the window. She looked nervous, her fingers fidgeting with her coffee cup. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone even as I took a seat across from her. "Thanks for meeting me," she replied, her voice shaky. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened." I nodded but didn't respond right away. I wanted to see where she would take the conversation. "I know I messed up and I can't change that," she began, her eyes welling with tears. "But I need you to know that I regret everything. Mark was a mistake and it didn't mean anything to me. I was just trying to escape my feelings of loneliness." This was it, the moment I had been anticipating. "You say it was a mistake, but the truth is you made a choice. You chose to cheat instead of coming to me. You made a choice to betray my trust," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "I know. And I'm so sorry. I've been speaking to a therapist since we last talked. I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away until it was too late, she confessed, her voice breaking. How can I trust you again? I asked, my heart heavy. It's not just about the affair, it's about the years of trust that have been shattered. You need to understand that rebuilding that trust is going to take time if it's even possible. I understand, she replied, her sincerity evident. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to show you how committed I am to fixing this. I'll be honest with you from now on, no more secrets. I took a deep breath, weighing her words. It's going to take more than just words, though. You need to prove it to me through your actions. You have to be willing to do the work, and I need to see genuine change. Absolutely, she said earnestly. I'll do everything I can to make you feel safe with me again. Just please don't give up on us yet. It was hard to ignore the flicker of hope in her eyes, but I was still guarded. I'm not saying I'm ready to take you back, but I'm open to the idea of working through this together if you're willing to put in the effort. Jenna nodded fervently, tears spilling down her cheeks. Thank you. I know I've hurt you deeply, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm worth the chance. I could see her sincerity, but doubt still lingered in the corner of my mind. I wanted to believe her, but the scars of betrayal were not easy to forget. As we parted ways, I felt a mix of emotions swirling in my chest. I was still unsure about our future, but I was willing to entertain the possibility of healing if she was committed to making amends. In the following days, I continued my investment journey, now fueled by a sense of accountability, not just to myself, but to the choices that lay ahead. I was determined to secure my financial future, whether I ended up taking Jenna back or deciding to walk away for good. The emotional journey was far from over, and there was still a long road ahead. But now I felt empowered to reclaim my narrative, to dictate my terms and ensure that I wouldn't be blindsided again. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it head-on. The days following our conversation at the cafe were a strange blend of hope and hesitation. Jenna was determined to prove her commitment to changing, and I could see she was making an effort. She kept texting me throughout the day, sharing little moments and reaching out more than she ever had before. It was as if she was trying to erase the past with every message, and while it was heartening, it also made me anxious. I threw myself into my investments, attending seminars and reading articles to deepen my understanding. With each passing day, I felt more empowered and less like a pawn in a game I had no control over. I was building my financial future, and it began to feel exhilarating. I even made the decision to put an offer in on that property I had been eyeing. I wanted a place to call my own, a space where I could breathe and reflect, regardless of what happened with Jenna. After some back and forth with the seller, my offer was accepted. The rush of excitement was palpable. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was taking charge of my life. Yet, even as I celebrated this milestone, the emotional turmoil regarding Jenna lingered beneath the surface. We decided to meet again a week after our cafe chat, this time at the cabin where we had faced the truth about her infidelity. I knew it was a bold choice, but I viewed it as a way to confront the past while also signaling my intent to move forward, whether that was together or apart. When I arrived, the sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the landscape. Jenna was already there, sitting on the porch, lost in thought. As I approached, she looked up, her face lighting up with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Hey," she said softly, standing to greet me. "Hey," I replied, taking a seat next to her. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words, and I could feel the weight of our shared history surrounding us. "I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about," Jenna began, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "I want you to know that I'm committed to making things right. I've set up regular therapy sessions, and I've started journaling about my feelings so I can better understand what led me to betray your trust." I nodded, appreciating her efforts, but I still felt a wall between us. "That's good, but you have to understand that it's going to take time for me to fully trust you again. Trust isn't something you can just fix overnight." "I get that," she said earnestly. "I'm prepared to put in the work. I know it's going to be a long journey, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I've realized how much I took for granted, and I don't want to lose you." Her sincerity resonated with me, but I still felt a sense of caution. You say that, but I need to see it in your actions. Actions speak louder than words, Jenna. You have to show me that you're serious about changing. I will, she promised, her eyes pleading with me to believe her. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to build a future together if you'll let me. I've been working on myself, and I want to be the partner you deserve. As we talked, I began to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe this could work, but I also knew I had to be careful. I needed to be clear about my boundaries, about what I expected from her moving forward. I'm in the process of buying a property, I told her, watching her expression shift from surprise to curiosity. I want a place that's mine where I can start fresh, regardless of what happens between us. That sounds amazing, she said, her voice filled with genuine excitement. I think it's great that you're taking this step. I'd love to help you decorate or anything you might need. I want to be part of your life again. I paused, considering her words. It's not just about decorating, it's about rebuilding trust. I need to know you're committed to being honest with me and that you understand the gravity of what you did. I won't tolerate any more lies. I promise, she said, her voice firm. I've learned my lesson the hard way, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to prove that to you. As the evening wore on, we talked about everything, our hopes, our fears, and our visions for the future. I could see that Jenna was genuinely reflecting on her past behavior and was committed to change. It was a lot to digest, but I found myself softening a little. By the time the stars filled the sky, I realized that while my heart was still guarded, I was beginning to see a glimmer of a path forward. Maybe with time and effort, we could find a way to redefine our relationship, but it would require both of us to be honest and committed to the work. That night, as we sat together under the stars, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to explore the possibility of rebuilding our relationship. I had taken control of my financial future and had begun to reclaim my independence, which gave me the strength to face whatever lay ahead. As I drove home, I felt a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Would we truly be able to work through this, or would the scars of betrayal always linger between us? Only time would tell. But for the first time, in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. I was determined to create a life that was fulfilling, one where I could stand firm in my worth and my choices. Whether Jenna would be a part of that journey remained to be seen, but I was ready to embrace whatever came next. In the end, I realized that healing takes time, but so does growth. Regardless of the outcome, I was committed to my journey of self-discovery and empowerment, and that was the most important lesson of all.